Now let's move on to the manual installation of PHP on Windows, which gives users full control over every configuration step. This approach is useful for developers who want to understand exactly how PHP works with the web server and prefer setting things up without prepackaged tools like XAMPP or WAMP. Step 1. Choose Web Server Apache. First step is to choose a suitable web server. There are several different builds of Apache 2 available for Windows, but it is recommended to download Apache directly from the Apache Lounge website. The Apache Lounge version is stable, secure, and specifically optimized for Windows systems. However, there are also other options you can consider, such as Bitnami, XAMPP, or WAMP server. These three come with automatic installation tools that make the setup easier, as they include Apache, PHP, and MySQL pre-configured. But if you want to install Apache and PHP manually, downloading them separately gives you more flexibility and control. PHP can run on Apache using two primary modules, mod FastCGI and mod PHP. The mod FastCGI module is used when PHP runs as a separate process, which can be more efficient in certain environments. The mod PHP module, on the other hand, integrates PHP directly into the Apache server, allowing PHP scripts to execute faster. When using mod PHP, it's very important that you download the correct thread-safe (TS) build of both PHP and Apache. This means the PHP version and Apache version must be built with the same Visual C compiler version, for example, Visual C++ 2019, and must match your system's architecture, either 32-bit x86 or 64-bit x64. This compatibility ensures that PHP can communicate smoothly with Apache without crashing or causing runtime errors. Note for students: in programming, a build simply means a specific compiled version of a program. Different builds might exist for different system types or compiler versions. So when downloading PHP and Apache, always ensure their builds match. This is a key step in avoiding installation errors. Once Apache is installed and configured, you'll be ready to proceed with setting up PHP and linking it properly to your web server. Step 2. Choose source build of PHP once you've selected and installed your preferred web server, like Apache. The next step is to download the correct version of PHP for your Windows system. PHP provides different builds depending on your setup, and it's very important to choose the right one for compatibility and stability. You can download the latest Windows-based PHP builds directly from the official PHP website at http://windows.php.net download. When you visit this site, you'll find multiple download options. These are categorized based on two main factors: thread safety and system architecture, whether your system is 32-bit or 64-bit. There are four main types of PHP builds available: thread-safe, TS, PHP build. This build is designed for web servers that run PHP as a single process, such as Apache with mod PHP. The thread-safe version allows multiple threads to run safely within a single process, making it ideal for use with Apache when PHP is embedded directly in the server. Non-thread safe, NTS, PHP build. This version is meant for use with IIS, Internet Information Services, and other FastCGI-based web servers, including Apache configured with mod FastCGI. The NTS build is generally more lightweight and faster when running PHP as a separate process rather than directly within the server. It's also recommended when PHP is used primarily for command line scripting. x86 PHP build. This build is meant for 32-bit systems. If your computer uses a 32-bit version of Windows, or if your Apache build is 32-bit, you must download this version of PHP. x64 PHP build. This build is for 64-bit systems. Most modern computers and versions of Windows fall into this category. It's important that the architecture of PHP matches the architecture of both Apache and your operating system. Otherwise, PHP will not run properly. Important note for students: when choosing your PHP build, always make sure that the PHP version, build type, TS or NTS, and architecture, x86, or x64 all match your system setup. If you're using Apache with mod PHP, go for the thread-safe TS build. If you're using FastCGI or IIS, choose the non-thread-safe NTS build. Selecting the correct build ensures that PHP integrates smoothly with your web server and runs without configuration or performance issues. Apache 2.4 on Microsoft Windows. Before proceeding with the integration of PHP and Apache, it is highly recommended to visit and review the official Apache documentation. This will help you gain a basic understanding of how the Apache 2.4 web server works, including its configuration files, directory structure, and common commands. Having this foundational knowledge makes it much easier to connect PHP with Apache later. Once you're familiar with the basics, the next step is to download Apache 2.4. You can obtain the latest and most stable version from the Apache Lounge website, which provides Windows-compatible builds of Apache. These builds are reliable, well-tested, and specifically optimized for Windows operating systems. After downloading Apache 2.4, users should follow the manual installation steps provided in the official PHP documentation. The detailed guide is available at https://www.php.net manual n install.windows.manual. PHP, this guide explains how to install PHP manually, configure system paths, and set up environment variables so that PHP can interact properly with the web server. Once PHP is installed, the next task is to integrate PHP with Apache. There are three primary ways to set up PHP to work with Apache 2.4 on Windows. PHP as a CGI, Common Gateway Interface. In this method, PHP runs as an external program that Apache communicates with whenever a PHP file is requested. It's simple to configure, but not the fastest option. PHP as a handler, mod PHP. This is the most common method where PHP runs directly within Apache using the mod PHP module. It's faster and more efficient for most applications because PHP is embedded inside the web server process itself. PHP under FastCGI. This is a more advanced setup that improves performance and scalability. FastCGI keeps PHP processes running in the background and handles multiple requests without restarting PHP for each one. It's often used in larger or production environments. Each of these methods serves a specific purpose depending on the project's needs. For beginners, running PHP as a handler using mod PHP is the easiest and most straightforward approach when setting up on Windows with Apache 2.4. In the next section, you'll learn how to configure Apache so that it recognizes PHP, interprets .php files correctly, and allows you to execute PHP scripts directly through your local web browser. When configuring Apache on a Windows system, it is very important to pay close attention to how file paths are written inside the Apache configuration files. Normally, in Windows, file paths are written using backslashes. For example, c/directory/file.ext. However, Apache does not recognize backslashes correctly because it follows a Unix-style path structure. Therefore, whenever you enter a path in an Apache configuration file, you must replace all the backslashes with forward slashes. The correct format should look like this: c:/directory/file.ext. This small but essential step helps Apache locate your files and directories correctly without generating errors. Another important point to remember is that when you are specifying a folder instead of a single file, you should add a trailing forward slash at the end of the directory path. For example, c:/Apache24/htdocs/. This tells Apache that the path is a directory and not a file. If these details are ignored, Apache may not be able to find your PHP files or modules, and it could cause configuration errors. So always remember to use forward slashes instead of backslashes, and add a trailing slash when writing directory paths. This simple practice ensures that Apache and PHP run smoothly together on a Windows environment without any file path issues. In this step, we will learn how to install PHP as an Apache handler, which is one of the most common and efficient methods to integrate PHP with Apache. This setup allows Apache to directly interpret and process PHP code whenever a .php file is requested by a web browser. To begin, you need to modify the Apache configuration file, which is named httpd.conf. This file contains all the important settings that control how the Apache web server operates. By default, it is located inside the Apache installation directory, usually something like C, Apache 24.4conf, httpd.conf. To load the PHP module for Apache 2.4, you must open this file using a text editor such as Notepad or Notepad++. Once opened, scroll to the bottom of the file and insert the required configuration lines that tell Apache where to find PHP and how to handle PHP scripts. These lines will typically include three types of instructions. Load module directive. This tells Apache to load the PHP module so it can process PHP files. php.ini dir directive. This specifies the location of your php.ini file, which controls PHP settings such as file upload limits, time zones, and extensions. Add type directive. This instructs Apache to treat .php files as executable PHP scripts rather than plain text. Once these lines are added and saved, Apache will know how to recognize and execute PHP code directly from your local web server. This method, installing PHP as an Apache handler, is the most widely used configuration because it integrates PHP tightly with Apache, offering fast and reliable execution. It's ideal for most users who want to develop, test, or run PHP websites on their local Windows systems. Now let's look at a practical example of how to configure PHP and Apache 2.4 to work together as a handler. In this setup, we are instructing Apache to load the PHP module so it can interpret .php files whenever they are requested by the web browser. To do this, you need to add a few lines of configuration code to your httpd.conf file in Apache. Before proceeding, it's important to note that the name of the PHP module has changed over time. In earlier versions of PHP, before PHP 8.0 Nero, the module name was PHP 7 module. However, starting from PHP 8.0 Pyro and above, it has been renamed to PHP module. So, make sure you're using the correct module name based on your PHP version. Here is the configuration example for PHP 8 with Apache 2.4 load module. PHP module C, PHP PHP 8 Apache, fartant.ll set handler application. httpd PHP, let's break this down step by step. The first line, load module, PHP module, C, PHP Apache 2.4 tells Apache where to find the PHP module file. This file acts as the bridge between Apache and PHP, allowing the server to understand and execute PHP code. The path shown here should match the actual location of your PHP installation. The second section, set handler application, .x httpd PHP, defines how Apache should handle any files that end with the .php extension. The set handler directive tells Apache to pass all .php files to the PHP interpreter so they are processed as PHP scripts instead of being shown as plain text in the browser. Once you've added these lines, save the configuration file and restart the Apache server. After restarting, Apache will now be able to detect and run PHP scripts. This integration method, known as installing PHP as an Apache handler, ensures a direct connection between PHP and Apache. It's a preferred setup for local web development environments because it's fast, efficient, and straightforward to maintain. The next step in configuring PHP to work with Apache is to set the path to the php.ini file. This file is extremely important because it contains all of PHP's configuration settings, such as error reporting levels, maximum upload sizes, time zones, and enabled extensions. To make Apache recognize where PHP's configuration file is located, you need to add a directive called php.ini dir inside the Apache configuration file, usually the httpd.conf file. This directive tells Apache exactly where to find the php.ini file on your system. For example, if your PHP installation is located in the directory C, PHP, you would add the following line to your Apache configuration, php.ini dir c och php. Make sure that the path you specify here matches the actual location where PHP is installed on your computer. The quotation marks are important, especially if your directory path contains spaces. This setting ensures that when Apache starts, it will load the correct php.ini file and apply all the necessary PHP configurations automatically. Without this step, PHP may not run properly, or it might load default settings instead of the customized ones you defined. Once you've added this line and saved the configuration file, restart the Apache server to apply the changes. After restarting, Apache will successfully recognize and use the php.ini file from the specified directory, completing this essential step in the PHP setup process. It's very important to note that the examples shown in the configuration steps use the path php only as a placeholder. When you are setting up PHP on your own computer, you must replace this path with the actual directory where PHP is installed on your system. For example, if you installed PHP in a folder named C Program Files PHP or D Web Tools PHP, then that exact path should be used in all configuration lines inside the Apache httpd.conf file. If Apache cannot find the PHP files at the specified location, it will not be able to load PHP properly, and you'll encounter errors when trying to run PHP scripts. In addition, you must make sure that the file mentioned in the load module directive actually exists at that location. The load module line tells Apache which PHP module to load and where to find it, so an incorrect or missing path will cause the server to fail during startup. For PHP version 8 and later, make sure you are using the correct module file. PHP 8 Apache 224.del. Earlier versions of PHP used files like PHP 7a patch 24.del, but the name has been updated for PHP 8. Using the wrong file version will also result in configuration errors. In short, always double-check your installation path and file names before saving your Apache configuration. This small but crucial step ensures that Apache can correctly locate and load PHP, allowing your server to run smoothly without startup or script execution problems. In Option 2, we will learn how to run PHP as a CGI, Common Gateway Interface program, instead of using it as an Apache handler. This method is slightly more advanced and is often used in environments where PHP needs to be executed as an independent process outside the Apache server. Before starting, it is recommended that users consult the official Apache CGI documentation. This will give a clear understanding of how CGI works and how to execute CGI scripts within Apache. The concept is simple. Apache communicates with PHP as an external program, passing user requests to PHP for processing and then sending the output back to the web browser. To set up PHP as CGI, the PHP CGI files must be placed inside a directory that Apache recognizes as a CGI directory. This is done using the script alias directive in the Apache configuration file. This directive tells Apache where to find executable CGI scripts. In addition to that, a special line known as the shebang line, pronounced sha-bang, must be included at the top of every PHP script file. This line starts with sa and points to the exact location of the PHP executable file, the program that runs the PHP code. For example, consider this configuration for PHP and Apache 2.x as CGI awas, c php php.x. Pop-infos. In this example, the line ow, c php.exe tells Apache that the PHP interpreter is located in the folder c php. When Apache encounters a PHP file, it uses this path to execute the script using the PHP executable. The pp-info command is a common test function that displays information about the PHP configuration and confirms that PHP is working correctly. However, there is an important warning when using PHP in CGI mode. Running a server in CGI mode can expose it to more potential security vulnerabilities. This happens because CGI creates a new process for every request, which can be exploited if not properly secured. Therefore, users must carefully read the CGI security section in the Apache and PHP manuals to understand how to protect their systems from unauthorized access or performance issues. In summary, running PHP as CGI provides flexibility and compatibility across different server environments, but should be used cautiously due to its security and performance limitations. For most developers, the Apache handler method remains the simpler and more efficient choice. In Option 3, we will learn about running PHP under FastCGI, which is considered one of the most efficient and reliable methods for executing PHP scripts on a web server. FastCGI is an improvement over the traditional CGI method because it keeps the PHP process running in memory instead of starting a new process for every request. This greatly improves performance, reduces server load, and speeds up the execution of PHP applications. There are several key advantages to using FastCGI. First, it allows better scalability, meaning it can handle multiple requests simultaneously without restarting the PHP process each time. Second, it provides improved stability, as PHP runs as a separate process, reducing the risk of crashing the web server if an error occurs. Third, FastCGI makes configuration and updates easier, as PHP can be restarted independently of Apache. To run PHP using FastCGI, you need to obtain a module called mod-d FCGID, which can be downloaded from the official Apache Lounge website at https://www.apachelounge.com. For Windows users, Win32 binaries are available for download. After downloading, you must install the module according to the instructions provided with it. Once installed, the next step is to configure your web server. You'll need to modify the Apache configuration file and add a line to load the FastCGI module. For example, the configuration might include the following directive: load module, FCGID module, modules, mod FCGID.so. Where is your php.ini file? This line tells Apache to load the FastCGI module, which enables communication between Apache and PHP through the FastCGI protocol. The comment below serves as a reminder to set the correct path for your php.ini file so that PHP can load its configuration properly. When setting up this configuration, make sure that all file paths are correct and correspond to the actual installation directories on your system. Any mismatch in paths may prevent PHP from loading or executing correctly. Overall, running PHP under FastCGI combines the best of both worlds: the flexibility of CGI and the performance of native Apache handlers. It's simple to set up, efficient in handling high traffic, and widely used in production environments for hosting professional PHP websites and applications.